Hello, in today's CATIA tutorial, I'm going to be going over some good design practices, some things that you might not technically see in like a technical tutorial, but some good practices just based on experience working with the platform, as well as working towards designing your parts with more modularity, editability, and robustness in mind. Some things have been covered before, but this is more in the context of those goals in mind. So I have a part in front of me that I just completed for another tutorial. It was more of a consolidation exercise, showcasing different features that are presented in the part design workbench. However, so if I were to do this sort of differently, how would I do it? First off, let me start with a new 3D part. And I'll just roughly go with the same idea and the same steps that I used here. First of all, we want to use geometrical sets for our sketches. People do it differently from person to person, but this tends to be our preference here at OcMee. So for example, I'll rename this to be, I don't know, let's say base sketches. And let's say we have another geometrical set, and I could say reference elements. So I did a little bit of that here. I put my reference elements in this geometrical set, but I also want to keep my sketches somewhere separate. And the reason for that is, one, it sort of ensures that I have a one folder, you could say, to look at all my sketches. And another reason for that is to, in general, all the reasons for doing things like this is to eliminate places where you don't really see where the links are between your bodies, between your parts. And what I mean by that is when you have things where, for example, I forgot exactly where I did it on this part, but let's say I had this pad at first, right? And then I sort of referenced, I think, one of these edges and then made this second pad over here, right? So that would be like an external reference, at least in the context of thinking of these two pads as separate things, this smaller rectangular pad versus this previous large one, right? They have references externally to each other, and this smaller pad is based off that first pad, right? But in order for me to really know that and actually keep that in mind down the line for my design, I would have to go into here, and then I would realize that this is a it's a yellow line, which means it's a projected line, and there are upsides to that, which is that if I were to change this line, or let's say the dimensions of that first pad, then it would update on its own automatically without me having to do anything. But the downside to that is that if it changes a little too drastically and the software doesn't like it, then it will just break. And you have to go back, figure out, let's say I did this a few months ago and I don't even remember, then I would have to figure out where those links are, figure out how to solve it. So in order to make it so that those links within each other are more obvious and more clearly defined, one good way to do it is to use one, define your sketches separately to know what your sketches are being linked to, and two, use Boolean operations with multi-body parts in order to sort of more clearly separate out your different features within your 3D part. So one example with connecting to the two pads that I was pointing out before would be, let's say I do a sketch in my base sketches here. And again, there's small nuances where different people do it differently, but here's one example of it. Let me actually define that sketch. Let's say it's just make it like 80 by 100. No. And I pad this up. Right, actually, so here's the sort of the less proper way. It's still technically correct. If you're doing simple parts, it actually might look like overkill to do it the right way. But the way that I'm trying to avoid, I'll show you basically a non-example, is this. Just doing it in the part, using this profile, and then continuing on with another sketch like this, and then I'm converting the line, projecting it. It didn't project. I forgot to press OK. And then exit, and then doing another pad. There's nothing technically wrong about this, right? And if this is literally what my end result is going to look like, why go out through all the trouble? And this is probably going to be fine, right? But if your parts get more complicated, then you might want to sort of separate these features out into something like, let's go into the part body and then I could either create a body and set right here and name it, or I could create a new body here. And let's see if I can move that pad over there actually. Okay, right. And then sort of, I went over a lot of the details in the Boolean operations tutorial, so if you are confused, you could look at that. But I'm going to basically do those Boolean operations. Do another body, pad 2 in that, and I would add body 2, nope, body 2 to part body, okay, and I will add body 3 to part body, okay. Right, this is a more modular way to go about things, because now let me see. Okay, now a better way to do it is to not really project this. Again, nothing technically wrong about that. But instead you would, let's say, dimension this. Red sketch. Okay, now there's nothing technically wrong about this, and I realized I didn't put my sketch to my base sketches, so I'll just redo that part. Sorry, so one way that you can do this, for example, I'll redo the sketch 2. So go into this top sketch over here. Okay, for example, let's say I'm just going to leave that as the whatever value right now. I'll come back to it. Let's say go back to sketch 1, and let's say I want this to be always half of this value, and I'm sorry, it sort of changed before because I was playing around with the values. And I could go, let me exit. I can go back into this, make it be a formula, and I could actually click this right into my little formula here, and I could use just your typical math operators to be half of whatever that value is, right? Another thing I could use for a similar effect is to, for example, in tools here, I could add parameters, and I'm sure you could add design tables and most likely connect to some kind of Excel sheet as well. I won't go into that. I'll just do this, right? Let's say I wanted that base height. Let's say I wanted that to be 120, just a little bigger than it is right now. Okay, go back into the sketch. I can actually connect that. That was a length. I can connect that to base height. Okay, now it automatically updates. And I also know that this, I can manually get it from the thing, or I could say it's half of the, or I should have connected it to the bottom side. Sort of defeats the purpose of it, but again, I'll just show the feature here. This might be just slightly more confusing, that's why. And again, so these references are a bit better because it's referencing the origin, right? Which it's never going to move. It's less ideal to reference things that might change, like this body itself might change, but the origin's not going to change, which is why I'm a bit more comfortable referencing off of that. Let's see if there's a bisecting constraint. There you go. And let's say I want to constraint this, and this could also be the base height. And this could be whatever width I want it to be. There's nothing in my body 3 here, right? So I'll go into body 3 and pad that up. All right, so it's 2 separate bodies right now, but that's just because I'm in the body here. If I look at it from the perspective of just the topmost body as a whole, we can see that it's, thanks to the Boolean operations, it's now added together. There's no seam in the middle. Another thing why this is useful is because, let's say on top of here, I'll do a separate body. Let's say on top of that, I wanted to add a hole. Let's just sketch a hole on this top face. Okay, don't be confused. You might be wondering, I just created a pocket, so why isn't it actually pocketing why isn't it actually pocketing the thing? Oh, sorry, accidentally. Yeah, so why isn't this a negative space, right? So you can see from the yellow negative, it is an actual negative space, but since it's by itself, if it, if it was a negative space, we technically should be able to see it anyways, because it's not combined yet. It's not pocketing anything. The pocket is by itself. So let's remove that from the part body. Okay, now we can see it. This is all fine. So why not just pocket directly? So the reason why I might not want to pocket directly, and also why not, or I should say, why not just do a hole? That would have been a lot easier. So this, I forgot to put in the base sketches again, but please ignore that. This could literally be any feature that I want it to be. And it will do the same thing. So there's a lot more flexibility by using the Boolean. I could have also done a shaft or like a revolve feature, and there would have been I could have made variation throughout the thickness of the part as well instead of straight down. I could have defined that as well in this remove. Matter of fact, I'll quickly show it. Say I want to sketch over here. And I don't know if it'll let me do this directly. I could try. Yep, it will. Okay. That was a terrible example, but I could go into views, tools, clipping. Oh, whoops, I am not in the right one. Let me exit that, go into part body. Then I'll go into clippings again, and we could see that it has created that profile without me having to change anything on top of it. So there's a lot more creativity and freedom by doing it this way, and also the connections throughout each of these bodies are way more well defined. Remove, add, right, and we can see that it's all on the same level on the tree. And also, if you're doing like a casted part, and you wanted to export bodies separately, that would it would make that operation a lot more clear. Okay, that's honestly what I wanted to cover today. A little challenge, I guess, would be to make something similar that I did like with all these features, except implementing those rules and those it's less so technical steps, but more so a way of thinking. But implementing that to our previous exercise would also be a good exercise within itself. All right, that's it for now. Thank you.